Welcome everybody to the Family Biz Show. I am your host, Michael Columbus with Family Wealth and Legacy in Rochester, New York. Today, we are going to be talking about your why and why it is so important, why it's the essential first step in understanding more about yourself, and even more so, maybe even how we can take that your why, how, and what, and then understand how that is effective with the rest of the family as well and inside the business. So today we're joined by Y Institute founder Gary Sanchez, Dr. Gary Sanchez, Chris Kenny, and Laverne Sessler. Welcome, gentlemen. Glad to have you all here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So the way we always start the show off is, we ask those that have joined us to kind of tell us about their journey. How did you get to where you are? Where did you come from? And what's the future looking like? So Laverne, if you don't mind starting off as the family business member, one other thing to note for the audience is that today is totally unscripted. We don't have questions. We don't have anything else. Dr. Gary Sanchez and Chris Kenny are going to work with Laverne to help him discover his why, how, and what live on as we're doing this, and then we'll feed in some other things. So Laverne, tell us about yourself.
Yep. So I grew up in the construction and demolition industry. My grandfather started Sessler Companies back in 1958 as a family business. That was then passed down to my aunt, my uncle, and my father. And so that's kind of what my life was growing up. From there, I went to Syracuse University, studied engineering, and then also my MBA. Right after school, I went from there down to New York City and worked for a construction management firm there, outside of the family business for a few years. And then just recently in 2019, came back and joined the family business here in upstate New York. So right now I'm part of the third generation. There's myself, my brother, and a couple of my cousins. And the business is kind of right now mixed between generation 2 and generation 3, working through some transition details and helping the business to grow and continue being successful.
Great. Appreciate you joining us today. Chris.
Sure. So presently I am a coach along with you, Michael, in the Gravitas Impact community. Prior to that, I did a lot of strategic planning work and consulting work. I have also worked inside of a family-owned business. It was a fairly large, independently owned travel agency. It was affiliated with American Express. It actually is my wife's family's business, and I worked in that for a number of years. Also started an HR outsourcing company, and before all of that, I was a lawyer. I practiced business law for a couple of large law firms in Chicago and Kansas City before moving to New Mexico, which is where I live now. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Gary Sanchez, and in the context of the work that I do with my clients, including many family-owned businesses, understanding why they do what they do, or what the core purpose of the enterprise is sort of an essential, it is an essential component of my being able to coach them effectively and help them accomplish what they want. And the methodology that I was using at the time, had a chance to describe it to Gary, and Gary, introduced me to the methodology that he has developed with the Y Institute now in terms of helping people discover their why. And it was and is a far more effective method for helping business owners understand their why and connecting that to the company's core purpose. So that's been my journey. I've been working with this Gary's why discovery process and applying it with my clients for several years, and it's been transformative.
Great. Dr. Gary Sanchez, welcome. Tell us about your journey.
Thank you, Michael. So I joined my family. So I'm a dentist as well. And my father was a dentist. And so I joined him in 1988. And the advice that I was given at that time was, if you just do a great job, build a great product and people will come. And so I did that. I spent 20 years going to the best institutes, finding the best mentors, building a beautiful facility, hiring a wonderful team and training them, and getting all the latest technology. So I did build a great product, and I took it to a very, very high level. But I can tell you that just having a great product is not enough, right? People become used to that, and that's the way things are done. And I became very disillusioned. I found that my practice was stagnating. It was getting smaller and smaller. It was more and more refined, but it wasn't growing. People weren't talking about the great job we did. And so I knew that I needed to find a better way. And that's when I heard about this concept of why. When you know your why, what you do has more impact. This why, how, what thing that Simon Sinek developed. And I was like, man, that is the missing piece. That's what I don't have. I know what I do, and I do it well, but I don't know why I do what I do. So I became obsessed with discovering my why. I called Simon. He and I spent about 8 months together trying to figure out my why. I finally figured out my why, which is to find a better way and then share it. And once I figured out my why, my life made so much more sense to me. Why I did what I did. I've got lots of patents and products, inventions, all better ways of doing things. My life has always been about finding better ways. And so once I realized that, I went back and figured out what Simon was trying to do, and I made it better. And so instead of taking 8 months, I could help somebody discover their why in about an hour. And I started doing this with people all over the world. And I started to keep track of all the whys that I discovered. And I figured out there was only 9 different whys. So once we figured that out, then we were able to develop the algorithm and write the software that you took and Laverne took, and we're all using now to help people discover their why in just a few minutes versus many, many hours. And so it's become very helpful in communicating within our family when you know your why. And I'll leave it at that, because I'm sure you've got some questions already set up, and let's see where we go.
Yeah. So I just want to share with people, when I took the why process, when I went through it, the discovery process, I'm a challenge.
Yep.
And I will tell you that when I read what you wrote and how the description was in there, it really impacted me in a really positive manner. It described so many different areas of how I've lived my life, because I'm always challenging the norm. I was always going against the grain and really trying, and for that reason of really wanted to help my clients, because I didn't want to listen to what somebody said was the right way to do things, because oftentimes when you follow the herd, in my opinion, you end up just getting herd type results. And so